So we're gonna make a 68 LBG portrait. You can start by looking for a source. I believe this one is pretty alright. It's not the best, but it's accurate to the time frame and the overall look. So I'm gonna use this. As you can see, it's a bit. His head is a little tilted to the right, so we can just tilt it back a little, just so it's kind of straight. You can do this by pressing and holding the right-click button. I think this is good. Then go to rectangle select, put it on fixed size with standard portrait dimensions. Click it, and you can now tweak it with the move selection tool. And now just kind of frame it if it looks good. Use Ctrl-Shift-X to crop the selection. It saves a lot of time. I think it could be a little more zoomed in. About this. I think this should be fine. Now you could go to image resize, which also is Control plus R, so it's even faster. Put in the double-sized dimensions. By the way, resampling, you can use either best quality by cubic or fand, just because the differences are pretty much negligible, but it's up to personal preference, to be honest. I find fand to be a little more sharper than the others. Press OK. Now you can just Control A to select it all, Control C to copy, and go to remove that BG. As you can see, I already have an LBJ there from the previous takes. Paste it here, wait till it processes, copy the image, place it back here, and just put the double-sized background here. Alright, so now comes the coloring part. You can use the magic wand tool to select the outside of his face. Use Ctrl-I to invert and create a new layer, put it on overlay. This will be the skin layer. You can use either of the skin colors. This is personally Spuds, this one's Atomics. It doesn't make the biggest difference because you can always tweak it afterward, but I prefer to use Spuds just cause I'm used to it. Now, as you can see, the edges here are kind of sharp, so you can Gaussian blur it on 2, just so it's a little less sharp. Now you can erase the suit part of the skin color. Just leave the face. For this part you can use a really hard eraser, just not to erase the excess parts of the skin, because if you use it, for example, on 30% hardness, as you can see, it erases a lot of the skin itself. That's not really good. This part's kinda tricky, but you get used to it. As always, Control Z to undo, saves a bunch of time as well. use the square brackets to enlarge or downscale your brush. Though that's kind of basic. Now I can see that the contrast is really high. But I don't think that this photo really allows you to adjust the contrast and brightness right off the bat. So I will instead tweak the levels a bit just to sort of get it to a place where it's easier to tweak it afterwards, if that makes any sense. Just normalize it a bit. Sort of like this. Should be good. Not all portraits require level adjusting, but if you're just unhappy with how your brightness contrast looks, just know that there is the option to tweak the levels, and that can help a lot. That should be good. Yeah, I think this is cool. Now you can erase the parts that don't need the skin color, really. Put on the opacity on 170 or 160 should be good. Just erase the eyes a bit on no hardness. Just a really soft brush. Otherwise it looks really sharp. Erase the eyes with 160 or 170 opacity just because it shouldn't be like completely black and white, otherwise it looks kind of uncolored. Just make sure it has just a bit of color in there. Now decrease the opacity even further to like 70 or 60 and start erasing the hair part, which is the most satisfying part probably. It's just so cool seeing the hair really pop out with a different color. That should be good that should be good, yeah. If you need like really minor adjustments to the hair, you can decrease opacity even further and just stroke it a bit where you see fit, where you really want to change something minorly. I think this is good. Something more here. Yeah, this looks good. Now on the same low opacity, just maybe even lower opacity, erase the eyebrows a bit. A couple strokes should do. That's nice. And this portrait, as it has like accessories, as it has glasses, you need to erase the frames of the glasses as well, so it's not skin colored. You can go a little higher opacity, and I also like to go a bit high on the hardness to make it more solid, I guess, and just erase the glasses frame, I'm sorry. With these kind of glasses, it's hard to spot the edges here, so I'm gonna touch them a bit later. Just erase the really prominent parts for now. like this. Alright, these parts we can just decrease the opacity by a lot and just erase it with one stroke, so it's not as noticeable. Alright, with we can see that these glasses go outside his face, and this part is actually part of the background of the source, not part of his face. So what I like to do here is use the eraser on the source, just erase the bits that aren't either his face or the glasses frame. So it's like, or wait, let me check. In the source it looks like, actually this source is really weird, where his glasses are just that way, kind of. I actually don't know where we should erase, or whether we should erase this thing at all. Let's just leave it be here, just maybe at a lower opacity. And this little black thing here is definitely hair, so I'm gonna do this. Yeah, it's a weird kind of glasses. Alright, now while we are still on the skin layer, we can also add some stubble using this color right here. Use it on a really soft brush and just kind of stroke the chin area, the lower jaws a couple times until you get a solid, stubble look. As I said previously, nobody shaves in Tino, so that's a good rule of thumb to keep on how prominent your stubble should be. This looks kind of good. Yeah. Alright. The skin layer also can have eye bag color. So I'm just gonna add a bit here. It's a purple eye bag color. I know that people use like green or just gray, but I just prefer to use purple. Alright, I think we can go on to the next layer now. Next layer is blush. Set it to overlay again. Use precisely this color. It's basically the skin color, but a bit more reddish. And when put on overlay above the skin color, it looks really nice. Oh, actually use this color, the blush color, put it on opacity full, and just add some lip color on the previous layer. And the skin layer adds like more of a solid color to them. Now select this color again on the lower opacity, like 47 or something, and just again stroke a couple times the parts where you want your blush to be, your reds to be more pronounced. For the blush, you just select a little, really big brush and just stroke it a couple times again until it looks, good. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I think something like this is cool. I think it's good. you can also add detail to the on this layer. So, for example, red below the eyes, if a person is tired or something, which in this case I believe he is. And I also like to add red to the ears, just to make them not really boring skin color. I think this should be it. As far as I remember, LBJ had blue eyes, so gonna use my blue color, make it a little lighter, and just stroke that a couple times. Looks good. Just gonna erase it a bit. It's important to not overdo it because, like in this case, it looks a bit weird because his eyes are so colorful. This should be good. Yeah. I believe we can go to the next layer, which is clothes. I also set it to overlay. You could use just a generic blue color for the jacket, and actually let me do it first. The shirt can just use the sort of yellowish color, like this. Just put it on higher hardness. Again, for the same reasons as previously, just to make the edge more defined. Erase the excess. This part could probably be simplified, but I really am used to doing this like this. Now blue for the jacket. Again on high hardness. There. Looks good. And the tie, I can have it be blue as well. As you can see, I'm not really staying true to the source photo. If it's in color, you can always see like the original colors of the suit and stuff. But sometimes I think that it's best to use the traditional colors as you do for Hoi 4 portraits, because sometimes the real life colors don't really translate well to the Tino style. I know like Kaiserreich style can pull it off, sort of, because they have really sort of bright colors and saturated colors, but Tino style doesn't really work with that, so it's best to stick to the original portrait colors and not the colored photo colors, if that makes any sense. Now I'm just erasing a bit of color, just to add a bit more flavor, I guess, to not make it look completely the same. Alright, so the clothes are done, and now I can start adding details. So this glasses frame, I think it would be better if we had it be gold, because it sort of just gives a bit of flavor to it, I guess. So just subtly add that color. I'm gonna use a hard brush on this one. Subtly add color, not to make it like oversaturated. Just make sure that it's there and it's sort of visible. It's noticeable that the frames are golden, for example. And add a bit extra wherever you want, just to make it pop, I guess. Sort of like that. With glasses also you can add color to the lenses themselves, so you can again go on a separate layer. This layer, I don't believe it needs any sort of blending mode. You can just do it on normal. The trick is to use a really low opacity brush. So if I want to make this these lenses blue, for example, I'm just gonna do this, and now this might look a bit bad. Not really bad per se, just oversaturated for something that is supposed to be transparent. So you can just go to saturation, hue saturation, sorry, and like change literally anything here until it looks good. I would like to keep them blue, just a bit less saturated and maybe darker. So the effect is still noticeable, but it's not as prominent. And I believe that that is all. This stage is basically for, you know, changing small details and stuff like that, which I am going to change. I am going to go to Tools, Smudge, and I'm going to mess up his hair just a bit. Just a bit, because in the source it's pretty messy, but remove.bg is kinda bad at doing messy hair, so it just smoothened it out. So just gonna do it manually, I guess. You can use like pressure 25%, even higher. It doesn't really matter. I haven't really played a lot with this. Alright, this should be enough. Again, it shouldn't be too prominent. It should just be noticeable enough. And I think we're done with the coloring process. So now we can, first of all, now we can save it as a project file. So hit Ctrl S and save it as a project file, as a PDN, just so it's easily accessible in the future if you want to change something or anything. Then you can disable the background layer. You can use Ctrl-Shift-F to flatten the image. Go to image resize again and set the dimensions to the standard portrait ones, and go take the standard portrait background, place it below the portrait itself, use Ctrl-Shift-D to duplicate the portrait layer, and go use a Gaussian blur at about 6 radius on the bottom portrait layer. And this should be enough. This should be all that's needed to make a good portrait in Tino style. Hope this was more informative than the last tutorial. So see ya.